Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Grand Prix before the Grand Prix. You're watching Sim Experience South Africa Formula 1 Saturdays. I'm your commentator, Johan Grunis, and I'll be running you through today's action here at the Hungaroring near Budapest in Hungary. We once again have a full grid of South African drivers chomping at the bit to get going on the track. The Hungaroring is situated inside the valley, providing spectators with amazing views from almost any parts of the circuit. This also results in a track full of twists, bumps and undulations, making it very difficult to pass in the dry conditions. 4.38 kilometers in length, the track runs through 14 corners with an elevation change of 34 meters. Average speeds of 212 kilometers an hour being relatively slow for these cars, but still impressive on such a difficult track. Now let's have a bit of a quick look at our weather. So 20 degrees Celsius on the air, 31 degrees Celsius on the track. It's fairly cool, very good for tire degradation. And we've got a few clouds in the air, and it's late afternoon. So it's looking very good for the drivers themselves. And we'll quickly jump on board with our safety car, just quickly run through a lap of the Hungaroring itself. So, rounding the last corner onto the backstretch, this is a very crucial point, and you need to kind of prioritize your exit here, as this is probably the longest time you'll be driving straight for the entire track. And then leading up to turn 1, this is going to be your best zone on the track for any overtaking, heavy braking into the corner. Back in 1987, we saw Nelson Piquet actually drifting in front of Ayrton Senna through this corner, although this has been extended since that to make the main stretch even longer. Again, and this is going to be a bit of a theme with the track, you kind of need to keep your speed up through the corner, but also manage your throttle and be very patient so that you don't force any understeer from your car. Now, down one of the mini straights, and once again, very important to get your entry for the corner correct. Otherwise, you're going to run wide, as you can see here, with that curb unsettling the car. Very important, once again, keep your speed up through the corner, but also make sure that you get a nice, good amount of speed through the exit. Now for the chicane, this is very important that you get the throttle down nice and early through that first chicane, or that first curb in the chicane, and then as you carry your speed through this next section of the track. Right, last corner until one of the kind of mini straights on the back of the track is going to be now, and it's going to be very important again. Run through the corner, use all of the track on the outside, and ensure that you've got that speed up so you can stay ahead of your competitors. Almost 90 degrees to the right hand. Now we're in the twisty portion of the end of the circuit, and an almost hairpin turn, and it's going to be important here. If you want to enter the pits, this is going to be the spot to do it. So not exactly here, but right now you can see the dashed line going to the right hand side. Now nice and wide entry for the last turn. Tuck into the inside of the corner, make sure you keep that speed up, and then use all of the curb at the exit of the corner to make sure you get some nice speed through there. Right, so we're live on track with a practice session, and I'm just going to quickly fetch our other commentator while we've got some of the cars on track. So Marius van Beek in front of us here, and I'll be back with you in 2 seconds. Right, welcome back everybody. So I've got a new commentator in the booth here with me. So hailing from our V8 Supercars series, a man with some impressive drives from there, and if I remember my facts correctly, Dennis Mitchell, welcome to the booth, and congratulations with your victory in the V8 Championship.
Good evening everyone, and yeah, thank you Jan. That was quite a challenging, but I'm sure these cars are just as challenging.
They're definitely going to be, and the factor that you've got downforce on these cars makes it a bit different to drive, especially through some of the corners where you kind of have the option to carry speed if you're brave enough to keep the speed up, but it also makes it very tricky to kind of strike that balance between getting your foot down nice and early and trying to see how much speed you can actually get into the corner itself.
Yes, correct.
So I'm just also going to quickly have a bit of a look at some of the comments on our YouTube channel. And while I'm saying that, on the screen we've got Rian Oberholzer, our winner of our previous race, and he's been very excited. He's a big Lewis supporter, and he's been very excited that he's been able to get the livery to run in. Of course, a bit of a controversial qualifying. If you've not watched it already, I won't spoil it for you, but definitely do make the effort to go and watch. But yeah, so he's a big Lewis supporter and very excited to be able to run the number 44. If you're on the YouTube channel, please feel free to say hi, send your shout outs for your favorite drivers, and we'll definitely pass them along on the screen itself. I see there's someone from Hacksaw Computer Services saying...
That's me.
Is that you? I've been always wondering from the V8 series, but okay.
Incognito mode.
So it's good to see that you're excited for the commentary, and yeah, for anyone else in there, you're more than welcome to join in with Dennis and say hi and get your shout out heard. So Dennis, last time I took a bit of time to speak about the drivers, but do you have any drivers that you're looking out for going into the session, seeing as you've driven on track with some of these guys?
There are several that are very quick. Adrian Nel, very quick. Rian Oberholzer, very quick. Current champion from Simrace South Africa in the, I believe it's a Formula 3 car.
That's correct.
Marius Skuman, he's also very quick. So very quick drivers. And then of course the other guys that did well in the previous race, Raymond Duggan, Gideon Jonkers, Corné Driet. I think they're all very quick. Ruben Kruger. Yeah. As it's pronounced, I guess. So yeah, various guys to look out for.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be keeping an eye out between Rian Oberholzer and Ruben Kruger, because they had a nice little battle going in the previous race, and Kruger unfortunately running wide in one of the corners and kind of giving Oberholzer the opportunity to take the lead, but he's definitely going to be looking at fighting back. So it's going to be a very interesting race from our perspective. So we've got Adrian Nel just running a few practice laps on screen with us now, and looking quite good. I know the Formula 1 drivers kind of ran into the 116s, but for us mere mortals, kind of. With the normal day job, it's a very impressive time to be running a 118 on the year.
These are the 2020 car. They are, of course, the 2021s.
That as well. So it's going to be a bit of a difference. And I do think with the current track temperatures that we've got, it's very cool compared to the real life Hungary. I think at some point they had a track temperature of 52 degrees Celsius. I don't know if you watched the qualifying.
I missed it, unfortunately, so don't spoil it.
No, I'll just say it is extremely hot out there. And then I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed, because I did see a bit of a rain warning for Sunday. But I don't know. Formula 1 has this little bit of a weather bubble around it. So we'll see whether that's going to happen. When there's already a little bit of a tussle here between Adrian Nel and Oberholzer behind him. So it's going to... That bodes very well for the race ahead. So
On YouTube watch, by the way, I see we're getting a shout out for Gideon Jonkers.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I just need to check that Gideon Jonkers is still running in the Ferrari. And yeah, he's running in Carlos's number 55. So Gideon also had one hell of a battle with Oberholzer in the previous race. With Oberholzer kind of shooting fast on the brakes. I think Jonkers got caught out quite a bit. But now I think he knows what to expect from Oberholzer. So he's going to give him, also going to really try and take the fight to him. But yeah, thank you there for... so again, insane clips. I'm not sure who you are in real life. It's always difficult on YouTube not being able to refer to everyone's real names. But yeah. So, Dennis, have you run in any open wheeler downforce cars? Or are you more of a tin top specialist?
Yes. No, I did do the practices in this. In practice, we were getting 17, so I'm sure the track will ramp up later. I think low 17s was, I think I had a 17.3, and I think Gideon had a 17.1 at the time.
So as we say that, Oberholzer jumped into the 116.809s. So there we go. But in the real life, this track also kind of evolves over the weekend. It's a very, very dusty track at the best of times because it's not that used during the normal year. I mean, it's definitely used a lot for F1, but then it gathers a bit of dust, quite literally. And then as the dust gets cleared over the weekend and the track rubbers up, the times kind of speed up dramatically. And even inside of a single session, you can see that track evolution happening. Of course, being in the simulator, it's not really the case for us. But the drivers kind of still get their rhythm. They get into the swing of things, and the times start tumbling down. And also, so I have a bit of a different way, but you're a much more experienced racer than I am, Dennis. So what, in this practice time that we've got before qualifying in the race, what's the points that you really want to focus on and kind of maximize your time on circuit?
I guess from my experience at this point, I would be, practice was kind of a half-hour practice that was extended. So usually in a half-hour practice, the start of the practice I'm focused on race setup, and the last 10 minutes or so you start to prepare low downforce setups, and hopefully you'll get a good qualifying that way. And then at least when you go into the race, you're prepared for your high fuel runs.
Definitely, yeah. I might have made a few people angry when I actually ran high fuel loads when I feel that I've done my best time that I couldn't qualifying. But it also puts you in a difficult position because you now have faster cars that kind of you have to watch out for. So it's probably best to rather do it here.
Yes. But you're entitled to run your own race.
I definitely agree, but I think there's a bit of respect between drivers that definitely needs to be maintained, and that's kind of been also the nice thing of these drivers. They've been very respectful of one another on track, and kind of give it one another space. They observe the gentleman's rule, so if there's a bit of a shunt, if someone feels like they've been at fault, they'll kind of hold back and wait for the other driver to recover. But even just with normal practice and qualifying, you kind of try and give your opponent the space to do the best that they can, so that at the end of the day you kind of win based on skill or your superiority in that regards, to put it that way.
Yeah, the sportsmanship is generally very high in these sim racing.
And it's probably also, I see the Pretorius kind of using the escape road of the chicane. I don't know. I hope it's not necessary that some drivers have to do that on track, but yeah, just wanted to point that out quickly. So that's the thing with these communities. You really do need to respect the people around you, because in future you still run races with these people, and they kind of become your friends.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So still a bit of time of practice left to go, as some of the drivers kind of just get the equipment sorted and everything. And I see Raymond Duggan also kind of just sitting at the edge of the 117s. So his current lap, you can see he's struggling with the last corner. And that's a very, very tricky corner to kind of get right, because you've got this wide entry and lots of speed that you try and carry through the corner, and then under that load on your tires, you kind of need to open up the steering so you can put the throttle down early, and it makes it very difficult to kind of judge that corner correctly and get the execution just right.
Yes, and with the torque of these motors at lower speed, plus with the KERS deployment, it's really difficult.
Definitely is. And also, I mean, with F1 cars, they don't have things like traction control. I'm currently doing a lot of races in a LMP2 car, which has traction control, and it's still easy to just step out the rear under acceleration. I mean, these cars are even stronger, so you must have so much patience on the throttle, and it's a very fine art to really get it done perfectly and consistently. So unfortunately, some drivers still kind of getting used to everything. So we've got a man right here, so Gideon Jonker, running in the number 55 Ferrari, and finding some massive time on track. He's 8/10, 9/10 down, and just rounding the last few corners. So we'll see how he gets along with the last corner. So nice and wide entry, carrying the speed, kissing the apex, carrying the grip through the outside of the corner. Unfortunately, losing time on the oversteer, but he's also jumped into the 117s. So the drivers definitely finding their feet on track.
I'm sure Gideon's going to be low 17s later on. He was low 17s in the practice server.
Yeah, that's... Given that he had that oversteer on exit, I can definitely see him finding a bit more time. If he doesn't step up the rear like that. I just want to quickly see. So he's currently on the C3 tire, so it is the soft. It's always confusing between the sim and real life, because in real life they move around the colors based on the track they're going to. And for the simulator, we kind of just work according to the actual codes of the tires. So Gideon Jonker's running on the soft tires, so this is probably going to be a qualifying setup, unless he's going to do first stints in the race and try and do something like an undercut, which might be a very viable strategy on this track. What do you think of possible strategies here, Dennis?
That's a good call. Question, I should say. The way I try to go at Silverstone is probably the same way I'd go here. Qualify on the softest option, go for probably a third of the race, and then do the rest on the harder option. But I believe there's 3 options here now, so might even go put a little bit earlier and put on the hardest and then go to the end. It depends on the time difference between the compounds.
It definitely depends, and it's also going to depend on the grip levels in the tire that you're comfortable with. So I actually went and just ran the data for the tires themselves. In terms of qualifying potential, you're going to have about 2 laps of grip on your C3s, which is the softs. Then the mediums are going to offer you 3 laps. So if you want to do a bit of a longer qualifying stint, if you're not that good with your consistency, that's going to be the key tire to look for. And then I don't think anyone has run the qualifying in hards, but if you do the hards with qualifying, you're going to have about 5 laps of grip before it starts falling off from that high level of grip. And then in the race itself, softs are going to kind of reach the medium stage of their grip in 17 laps. The mediums 25 laps, and then the hards 36. So I've not checked with this race distance whether it's possible to run the entire race on a full tank of fuel, but we might even see some people opting to go for a no-stop strategy.
You could. It's quicker though, strategy-wise, to put fuel in because the tire change takes longer than the fuel being added in a set of Corsa.
That's true. So you can kind of, if you want to do a bit of a splash and dash, that can count in your favor if you can run the entire race on the hards. But the hards are definitely going to last. I mean, the low grip stage is going to be at about 68 laps. And that's before the tires reach the end of life. Although at that point you are going to be spinning out and stepping out the rear.
I'm keeping an eye on Dirk at the moment because he's driving, but he's also in the YouTube channel saying good evening to everyone.
Yeah, so I think he might be looking for a few tips here, seeing what his opponents are doing with their wheels, the tires, and everything that they're up with. I know there was one of the competitors from the V8 series that also kind of hung out in the YouTube channel during qualifying, and then just before the race he would drop off and then get going.
I believe that was Melvin, yes.
Yeah, Melvin goes. So, apologies. I think Dirk might be pulling off something similar. Although it's always nice when they come and check in with us. So,
unless he's got a tablet or something next to him while he's driving, he's multitasking.
that can be a possibility. I know some of the guys here also have their wives that actually help them out with their sim racing, so I can't really see Morris Kuman on the list at the moment. Although, yeah, he's still in the pits, ready to get going. But I know Morris Kuman has a very supporting wife when it comes to his sim racing, and she might be there sitting on the YouTube channel acting as his pit crew, kind of telling him what's up. Apologies, I'm just quickly going to put on an ad and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So the qualifying kind of snuck in on us with no warning whatsoever, and we've got some of the competitors already running out onto the track to get going. So we're currently on board with Adrian Nel, also not on board, but looking at Adrian Nel, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on this man. He was part of the former Sim Race Africa community, and I know there's a few guys from there actually participating in the Sim Experience South Africa activity, so series. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to get up to here as he rounds the back of the corner. And he's got one other driver in front of him, which is going to be Corne Breed. So Corne Breed is going to be starting us off. But for now, we'll keep an eye on the new talent that we've got here as we get into our first lap. So on board with Adrian Nel into the first corner, nice and heavy braking zone, kind of slightly late, running nice and wide as he rushes through the gears. Corne Breed kind of keeping out of the way, still getting his tires up to temperature, I would assume. And onto one of the little mini straights of the course. So just throwing the car in there, slight lift. can see a big difference between the safety car and these Formula 1 cars. Right, into the chicane. Difficult to get the throttle down quickly, but he gets through there, and you can just see how comfortably he's throwing the car into these corners. With the car just sticking like glue to the surface. Some more drivers on the outlaps doing very well to keep out of the way. Now losing no time whatsoever. And rounding the back portion of the circuit. So this is looking very good. 2 purple sectors for now. As he rounds the last turn, keeping in not as wide as he can be, so he might potentially still have a bit of time to gain in that last sector, and that's going to be a 1:17.473 on the soft compound for Adrian Nel. And I assume he would go for another round to kind of see what he can get out of that. I'm going to jump to Gideon Jonkers, who's just put in a purple first sector. Although, yeah, and then a personal best in the middle sector. So, Adrian now then topping that again. So, Gideon now chasing his best lap, and I would assume he would have to go for another one. Gideon Jonkers jumping into second position on the grid. Now, timing towers having a bit of trouble updating. So we'll give that a bit of a while to get going. But currently we're sitting with Adrian Nel in first position. Gideon Jonkers second. Raymond Duggan third. John Stewart fourth. Gerard Pretorius fifth. And then Dirk Brandt sitting in sixth position. Although only 3 of those drivers, so only Nel, Jonkers and Duggan, have put in competitive lap times. The rest of the drivers still have their lap times registered from the outlap. And Adrian Nel coming into the timing boards with a 1:17.189. A very, very solid time for him there. And I can imagine him being very happy with that. So now it's up to the other drivers to find an answer for that. Unfortunately, Gideon Jonkers not finding time on his lap. So we'll jump around a bit. So looking at Raymond Duggan with some traffic in front of him. And that is the number 47 car. So I'll quickly see if I can find out. So that's going to be John Stewart that's in front of him there. Jonkers jumping onto the board with a 1:18.115. Looking very solid indeed. Well, the Red Bull is kind of getting out of the way. So Raymond Duggan not really finding the time that he was looking for. And Adrian Nel still finding time. I'm going to jump to someone that's maybe not put in that fast of a time yet. So I don't think we have a time for a gentleman I want to select him. Jovan Oosthuizen coming across the line with a 1:20. So I would assume that he still has a bit of time to gain there, and he's struggling with his lap. Ruben Creer, our runner-up from the previous race, still on his outlap. Then looking around the pack a bit. New face, Willem Steyn running in the number 63 Williams. That's going to be George's car. And Steyn still getting used to the track a little bit while we get going around the track with our qualifying times. So just a reminder of the rules. You have to use both compounds during the race, and you start on the fastest qualifying tyre that you use. So I can see Adrian Nel going around on the C3, so that's going to mean he's probably going to start the race on the softs. Gideon Jonkers is running around with the C3, so that's also the softs. Courtney Breed prancing around in the mediums. which is going to be the white wall tire. Now they've got, as we've said, they've got three compounds at their disposal. Although, with the Hungaroring being as short of a circuit as it is, I think the hard tire is going to be a little bit redundant. So expect a lot of drivers to run the mediums and the softs. And it's all going to depend on how you want to start your race, what your race strategy is going to be. So currently, if you're on an orange tire, it means you're possibly looking at a shorter first stint. And then with the white wall tires, that's going to be, the drivers are going to be looking at running those tires a little bit longer. You can refuel during the race, as we've said before, so it's also going to depend on how you want to utilize that difference in weight. So you refuel in the middle of the race and your weight goes down as you work through that fuel tank, and that's going to mean you just have that little bit extra of a push at the end of your stint. So while we've been chatting, Duggan jumping on the board with a 118.4, Stewart on the board with a 119.7, Westhuizen 120, Brandt 121, and Stewart with 122s. So it's definitely a very difficult circuit to get used to. Jumping around, I'm going to look at whether we've got someone who's got a bit of a faster lap. So right at the end, Westhuizen finding some extra time on his delta. It's not going to be much, but it's going to set him up perfectly for his next lap with some nice speed going into the first corner. You can see the back end of the car wanting to step out, quite squirrely under braking. And it might be that he's set up the rear of that car to be very responsive, so he can rotate it through the trickier corners throughout the track. So onto the back portion of the circuit, using as much of the exit of the corner as he dares, and running the corner. So running very nicely, very close to his delta, and finding a ton of time through the chicane. So 5/10. That's a very impressive find for him there. I think he's going to be nailing on that section for the next few laps, trying to see if he can get it consistently. And now onto the back portion of the circuit. So again, with the hairpins, it's very, very tricky to get your speed going through there and then set yourself up for that last corner. So 7/10 down. Unfortunately, a bit of oversteer he has to correct, and with his wheels stepping out onto the green stuff, that's going to spin him around, and also some sympathy spins from the drivers around him. Adrianel comfortably still sitting in the 117s. Only driver to jump into that portion of the time boards. We still know that there's a few other drivers that can challenge him. Leon Jonkers, no real answer for a better time yet, but sitting almost on 118 flat. Corne Breed right on his time, so not improving yet, but a 118 323. Raymond Duggan jumping into the mix with 118.084, very close there to Jonkers. So I can imagine that putting a bit of pressure on Jonkers, and just kind of putting a bit more urgency on this qualifying run. 8.5 minutes to go, so still a few laps left for some of these drivers.
Duggan being the first guy on the harder tyre, he's well placed there.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good lap considering his tyre choice.
And on the YouTube channel, we're getting a request for some onboards.
Oh yes, I'd be happy to oblige with that. So let's see if we get someone that's up on the time and go on board with them. So we're running on board with Oberholzer 2/10 down as you start rounding off the first sector of the track. He has a little bit of a tow from the car in front of him, And I'll be with you in a second to say who that is. Looking very...
John Stewart.
There we go. So just getting past John Stewart through the chicane, and same as with Oosthuizen, finding a little bit of time there. Right, now onto the back portion of the circuit. And it's going to be very important to prioritize the exit of this exact corner. Now, unfortunately, Oberholzer are not able to do that. 90-degree left-hander, very tricky to get right. And now the last two corners of the circuit. So, complete 180. Nice and wide entry. Unfortunately, a little bit too wide for Oberholzer, and that's going to compromise his run. Looking around the track, so Karel Pretoria is not on a lap yet. Dirk Brandt still on an out lap. Jovan Oosthuizen not busy with a lap currently. John Stewart, nothing yet. Willem Steyn still on his out lap. So we'll maybe stick with him while he gets going.
Marius Skuman is now joined again.
And I've been looking forward to a lap from that man, but we'll give him some time to kind of settle himself. Right, Steyn finding some time in the first part of the first sector of the track. Managing to carry some nice speed, looking very smooth. Which is very tricky to do with a car that's this responsive. Unfortunately running wide, and that's going to invalidate his lap. And he'll have to think about maybe setting up for the next one. We've also got Alistair Barnard running in Sergio Perez's Red Bull. Currently struggling with a bit of time through the first sector, so I think he might still be getting acquainted with the track. So, one of our new drivers, Marius Skuman, running Latifi's number 6 Williams car on his outlap at the moment. Coming into...
You got another shout out on the YouTube channel for yourself.
I never get those, so thank you, Yassine. So Yassine Manuel being very friendly there, and he's also shouting for Oberholzer. So he's definitely had some run-ins with Rian in the Sim Race South Africa community, and that's also what I wanted to point out. So this man right here, Marius Skuman, is currently involved with a big rivalry between himself and Oberholzer. So also keep an eye on those between those two gentlemen on track. They'll definitely keep it clean, but they'll definitely be fighting tooth and nail, trying to prove themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they can run against one another. Also just want to check, as always, so we actually have Oberholzer running right behind him in the Mercedes. You can see there in the background. So it's going to be very interesting to see what these drivers can do. Right, so Marius Skuman heading out for a timed lap, and we'll jump on board with him. I think that might have been his lap. We'll just jump to Oberholzer at the moment, and I think he might not have wanted to give that bit of a tow to Oberholzer in that first portion of the circuit. Oberholzer 2/10 in that first sector and carrying the speed through, so 4/10 on the flying lap at the moment, finding some major amounts of time, 6/10. We've got another car in front, so this might be compromising him with a bit of dirty air, but we'll see how he's doing from there. And unfortunately, he might have had to lift there a bit to avoid any collision with the car in front of him. And he has indeed, so losing a bit of time. So we'll leave him alone for the time being. 3 minutes to go, so almost at the final results for our qualifying. Monaco is still sitting in the pits. Also see some other guys still kind of waiting to get laps in. Ruben Kruger still on the outlap. Dennis, I just want to check, you still with us?
I am. I've just pushed the wrong button and disconnected.
So I'll wait for you to get going with that before we ask you to compensate on a bit of a lap. Corne Briet putting in a bit of a time lap. I'm not exactly sure why his delta is showing 27 seconds down, but he's already got a time on board. But we'll keep an eye on that. So Corne also looking very solid with a 118.147. We've got 3 drivers jumping into the 117s. Nell still sitting in provisional pole. Duggan provisional second, and then Kruger just clearing the 118s. And hopefully for himself securing a 3rd position on the grid. So again with a bit of an outlap from him. And I just want to see Marius Skuman second and 1.2 seconds down on his time. So we'll stick with him for the last pass of this track and see where he ends up. 1.5 seconds, so finding massive amounts of time. As I think he might have been exploring the track on that first lap. Right, last few turns on the track. 1.5 seconds. Looking very good. And driving the wheels of his Williams. So 1.7 seconds. This exit is going to be everything. Nice and early on the throttle. 1.8. And that's going to jump him up to 9. So still a bit of improvement through that first sector of the track. But he definitely has a lot to fight for. Right, Adrian Nell still sitting in the pits, very comfortable with his time. And now it's going to be too late to exit the pits, so it's going to depend on who's currently on track. Dirk Brandt still struggling a bit with his current lap. So I'll jump around a bit. Raymond Duggan, 1/10 down. He's going to need a lot more to catch up with Nell. So we'll see where he ends up, but he might also be thinking about Krier breathing down his neck for the 3rd position. Krier is still also on track at the moment and might be looking at doing some times of his own.
I think Duggan might still cross the line in time for another flying one as well.
It's 8 seconds, 7 seconds.
Close.
Very close.
Oh, he lost it.
Yeah, that's not going to be a second lap for him. So I hope he's okay from that one. Gideon Jonkers standing still on the track. Corne Briet, unfortunately the delta counter is broken for this man. He's driven so fast that even the stopwatches can't keep up with him. So we'll only see after he's cleared the finish line whether he's improving on his time. But already sitting in a comfortable 5th position. He's got Oberholzer sitting behind him. I think he's going to have a lot of fighting to do in that first lap. So everyone across the line except for Briet.
Marius is, I think, still on the lap.
Marius van Wyk still on the lap. He hasn't put in an official timed lap. As Corne Briet goes 2nd fastest with a 1:17.499. So that's a very impressive time for him, and I can imagine him being very happy with that. Marius van Wyk going into the pits, so that's not going to be a time for him. And he'll be starting from the back of the grid. We'll quickly jump to ads, and then we'll be back with you shortly. Welcome everyone. So we're ready to get going on the grid. We've got all of the drivers gridding up, and the safety car is still sitting there in the background. So we've got on pole Adrian Nel looking to run away with this into corner number 1, and opposing him is going to be, if I remember correctly now, Duggan. Sorry, no, Corne Briet is going to oppose him into that first corner. So lights are ready to get going, and the lights are out and we're off. So already one of the Williams getting a terrible start there, running into the wall. Adrianel having a massive run into the first corner. Corne Briet sitting there on the inside, defending very heavily from the cars behind him. You can also see Oberholzer moving up in the pack there, position number 4. Kruger getting into the fight, positions or second position, swapping all around.
Stuart also had a spin as well.
All kinds of chaos here in the first lap. A bunch of drivers running wide there, not really used to the high fuel loads. As we get going here through the first chicane, now getting through there quite cleanly. Clear just behind him, followed by Briet Jonkers. Oberholzer are kind of falling back in the pack a little bit. As we get going, Jovan Oosthuizen also moving up in the pack in the midfield.
Jude Stewart has gone off again.
So a very rough start for Jude Stewart. As we round the corner with the first few drivers, and already the pack is split up into 3 parts. Rounding the corner together, now Kruger and Briet all running in close succession. Jonkers and Duggan having a bit of a fight behind that. As you can see, Oberholzer also jumping into the mix right behind him. So Duggan now forced to defend, while he actually wants to think about attacking Duggan ahead of him. So Oberholzer all over the rear there of Duggan, and looking very solid. So up the circuit, up the hill we go, through the valley. Jonkers running wide and bringing Duggan into the mix. Duggan looking on the inside. Is he going to be able to make it? He's near the inside for the chicane. He's pushing it and makes the pass on Jonkers. Oberholzer behind him, slipping past. And Jonkers kicking himself about that, over that mistake where he ran wide into the back portion of the circuit. Out in front, Adrian Nel, unfortunately falling behind Kruger. Now fighting to get that, to regain that position. Briet also pressuring him from the behind. He's looking up the inside but not finding the gap. Kruger looking very solid in first position as they go round down the main stretch. Any interesting things from your side, Dennis?
I'm just keeping an eye on Briet because he's running the harder tires, so I think he's doing very well at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And then Duggan behind him also on the C2s. And then C3s for the rest of the pack. And the next driver running a C2 is Borne Deploy. Briet now all over the back end of Nel's car. And now finding a bit of speed here on Kruger. Up the hill they go. Nel unfortunately running wide, and that might be where he lost some time previously to Kruger. As they go into the chicane looking nice and neat. Just quickly going to jump around. Raymond Duggan now under pressure from Oberholzer. As Oberholzer sits 4/10 behind his rear wing.
Briet almost lost it in the chicane there. Spun up a little bit.
And you can see that in the timing, there's a huge gap that opened up between him and Nel for 1 lap. Oberholzer trying to close that little gap between him and Duggan, but not finding it. They've got a few cars
Briet
coming.
having a hard time on the brakes, seems to be locking a little bit.
He might have cooked his tires.
Or possibly the balance on heavy fuel just isn't there yet. It might come good later.
Ruan trying to look on the inside, but assessing the risk and finding that it's too risky. Duggan now catching up with Brett as well, so big fight between all of these drivers. A lot of action on the track at the moment. So Ruan trying not to compromise his line with the cars in front of him, but it's very difficult. And he's having to play the survival game at this point. Duggan also very
the
close.
three of them having combat, it might bring Gideon back into play as well.
So we'll definitely keep an eye on that gap between Jonkers and Oberholzer, but you're definitely right. One of the back markers getting out of the way.
Very well done there by Morris.
Yeah, and very, very respectful. Not wanting to compromise the battle here. So Brett opening up the gap between himself and Duggan. Duggan very preoccupied with Oberholzer's car behind him. And Mercedes very intimidating in the rearview mirror. And Jonker's not finding some time yet. Oberholzer getting a very wide entry. And possibly giving him a run. He's looking to the outside. Where is he going to go? Up the inside he goes. Into the first corner. This is the best opportunity he's got for overtaking. Duggan almost turning in on him. Unfortunately spinning off. Yeah, that's pressure for you. Looking around the track, we've got Jude Stewart putting the pressure on Gerard Pretorius as we go down the front straight. Deploy moving up on Duggan. So Duggan still recovering from his spin. Lots of oversteer from Jude Stewart there.
I think Jonkers is coming into play. He's closing in on Oberholzer.
9 tenths, 8 tenths. We'll definitely jump back to those two now.
He was very good in practice. He was on a 17-1 in practice, so I think he's got the pace. If it comes together, he'll be there.
Definitely, and they were fighting for a big portion of the previous race in Silverstone. So they can definitely give one another a go, and this time they're on the same tyre. So it's going to be very interesting. It also depends on what kind of driving style this track requires in regards to what the drivers can deliver.
I think they have different setups because it looked like in the final sector Oberholzer is pulling away, but in the middle sector Jonkers was faster, so maybe Jonkers has got a bit more wing on his car or something like that.
I can definitely expect that to be the case. It might also be that Oberholzer inflated his tires a lot harder with him kind of overdriving the car. I know, and this I kind of want to point out. So we'll maybe go on board for that. Although Jonker's looking on inside, not giving us apologies, not giving us an opportunity to look away. Through the chicane, he's sitting on the backside, 3 tenths between these two drivers, and Oberholzer having to think about defense.
Oberholzer almost lost it there on the curb.
And that's the thing that I was talking about, overdriving. Oberholzer has only got one mode, and that is full beans. And that kind of affects his tires and how the temperatures change.
He's run wide there.
That's going to open the door for Jonkers. Jonkers not ready for an attack yet, falling back to 4 tenths. And he's got to be able to follow this.
I think Jonkers is being very cautious here.
He's being very cautious. I think it might be looking like Oberholzer is a bit erratic. Running the defensive line, still defending very nicely through there. Jonkers kind of running a lot of speed into the corner, but just not finding the way to get past. Around the outside, is he going to get the speed? Falls back behind, doesn't want to get pushed off. So some really good driving between these two drivers. But yeah, so that's the thing I was talking about. Oberholzer likes to really drive at the limit the entire time, and that causes his tires to kind of gain a lot of heat. So he might even be running harder tires to compensate for that, and that might also be why he's got that a lot less rolling resistance, but not that confidence that you need for the tight corners.
The next closest battle, I think, is between Deploy and Duggan.
On my screen, they're still pretty far ahead. I'll quickly jump to them. There's still a bit of distance between those two cars. Although you are right, that
is starting to catch though.
Definitely, and we keep an eye through this last sector. And they're not that far behind, so third and fourth kind of just ran through this a few seconds ago. And he's chewing down that gap down to 1 second, so he's getting within striking distance now.
As well as Pretorius on Oosthuizen, they're also very close.
I can see them just crossing the line. Pretorius is running a much faster lap than Oosthuizen at the moment. And I think we might jump to them. And yeah, these two drivers are definitely a lot more involved at the moment. Oosthuizen is very aware of that Alpine right behind him. Same tires, same age tires, so it's all going to depend on setup between these cars. Adrian now putting in the fastest first sector. Still trying to catch up with Kruger. Kruger running well ahead of the pack. And getting a very solid start through this race. So through the middle sector we go. And this is that sector where you need the downforce. And as I say that, Oosthuizen actually runs a bit wide. Going onto one of the back straights. Also very difficult with the circuit, there's no corner names. It becomes very difficult to identify all of the corners, especially if you just have numbers to work with. 4 tenths between Oosthuizen and Pretorius, and looking very good. Oberholzer are also catching up with Dirk Brandt. Some action going up front. Sorry, I just quickly jumped. Jonker making the pass on Oberholzer. And Oberholzer running very wide. I think there might be something wrong with his tires at the moment.
Maybe that's why Gideon Jonkers has been catching. He's been preserving his tires better.
It can definitely be, and if he's not been scrubbing his tires as much, he might not have had that much problem. Oh, yeah, he might not have much problems. Duggan and Oberholzer are also switching now. I think Oberholzer might actually dive for the pits pretty soon, as our pit window also kind of opens up. Well, it's been open for a few laps now, but this is going to be the point where you're going to start to think about doing an undercut.
Jonkers is on the tail of Brandt at the moment.
Yeah, definitely following very closely onto the first corner, and some oversteer from Brandt. That back end of the car just too nervous, and into the pit goes Oberholzer. So he's had enough of those tires. He's going to throw them away and swap them in. Adrian again with the fastest first sector. So very keen to catch up, and he is actually catching up with Kruger. Just quickly checking the YouTube
the last
channel.
lap it was 1.6 down to 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, definitely a huge effort coming there from now. So just quickly looking at the YouTube channel. So we've got Timo Smith. Just want to say, yeah, how's it, boys? Good luck at fun all. Timo running in the V8 series. So was very active there, and also was in the commentators booth with us back in Silverstone. Then
I'm watching Oberholzer as he's come out of the pits. He's run wide twice. So a very scruffy outlap.
he might be having some equipment trouble then. I don't know. He's on the same tire. So that might mean he's going to have to pit again.
Yes, otherwise he's going to get a penalty.
So overall, they're not
Which
having a fun time.
seconds.
Yeah, no, he's going to have to pit again. And it's a very short circuit, very short race for a 3-stop race. So I think he's kind of been having some trouble. I'm just looking to jump ahead. Nell has caught up with Kruger. And some massive amounts of oversteer from Nell.
He's now within DRS.
Yeah, he definitely crossed the detection zone within the 1 second gap. He's fallen behind slightly. And he's not using his DRS. So it might have been just before the detection zone that he fell into that 1 second gap. Not had it available. Jonkers on Dirk Brand with a very short gap in between. And then Duggan also starting to close the gap. Down the main straight they go. And some weaving with from Duggan there in the background. Not sure whether he's trying to hit his tires a bit. Bit of an odd thing to do down the main straight. If you've got no one behind you, but definitely lost a bit of time in that regards.
I'm just keeping an eye on Jonkers here. He's not seemingly able to make any impact on Dirk. He's there, but just can't get past.
Yeah,
Dirk's
and
doing great defense here.
through the chicane, so they've got.
As I say that, there goes Gideon. No, almost.
Very close.
The advantage of a back marker there.
He's
They've
looking for an opportunity. Yeah, so it was Van Wyk and then Oberholzer. You can see there in the background both of those cars running there.
And there goes Jonkers. He's finally made the pass.
So inside the braking zone, just kind of diving, sneaking through, almost without us noticing, but Brands is not going to let up. He's going to fight back for this, and he's going to have DRS available. Open goes the rear wing. And looking very good. So, Dirk, I'm going to swap over to the Dirk Brands view, going on board, inside the cockpit view. And why don't you just run us through your thoughts, what he might be thinking about as we go along the lap?
Unfortunately, I think he's going to be realizing that Gideon is now pulling a gap on him, so he's probably going to just consolidate and preserve his tires and hope that he has another fight after the pit stops.
Unfortunately, as we just swapped over, why don't we jump over to Adrian now, who's now very closely behind Ruben Kruger. I'm going to go in his cockpit view, and then you can run us through your thoughts.
Well, the first thought is he's within a second and he wasn't using DRS, so I'm not sure why. I would have given him a little bit extra to maybe get under the wing of Kruger. But he's slowly coming closer and closer. He could also just be playing the waiting game now, waiting for the stops to happen.
It's also, with this being a new car for Nell, or at least running it in competition for the first time, he might not have the buttons configured. I know it caught a lot of people off guard using the ERS and the DRS.
He seems to lose out a bit in the first sector. In the middle sector he seems right, in the last sector he definitely seems stronger. So here you'll see him start to catch a bit. It's run slightly wide on the last corner, but that's alright because you can make apexes and actually get a good drive. Now his DRS is open on now, so he must have the button, just forgot to use it last lap.
It's also, and some oversteer as he's unsettles the car over the curb. That's also the tricky thing. Currently, you get a beep when you have DRS available, and if you're thinking about a few too many things, it's going to result in you missing that beep. I'm going to jump over to...
I don't think all guys have that beep, because that's an app that you have to load, And I know when I used it last time, I didn't hear it. So I don't know why, but maybe it's not loud enough or just the tone isn't good enough.
Definitely, and I mean, these engines are very loud when you're sitting inside the car. So it could be that the engine is just drowning out that sound. Maurice van Beek, unfortunately, having a bit of a crash with the environment. Jude Stewart also finding a wall. I'm going to jump back to Raymond Duggan, who's all over the rear of Dirk Brandt, looking for any opportunity that he can get past. I can't remember exactly which driver it was that was faster through this middle sector, but I think it's Duggan that's got a bit of an advantage through the last two sectors. Corne Breed moving into second as Adrian Nel pits. So we'll be keeping an eye on him and the tyres he puts on for the next portion of, or his next stint.
See, there's another one in the pits as well.
Van Beek. Marius van Beek also in the pits. And I suspect that might be due to damage. I saw he had a few collisions on track.
Then Nel has come out just behind Brandt and he's almost lost the next place, but I think he's got it.
Yeah, so coming out just before Duggan.
I think Duggan's on the inside now. These two are doing nice side by side here.
I can imagine Duggan being a bit frustrated with that, since that's essentially given Brandt some free air to start pursuing some of the drivers in front of him. Also, I see...
Nel's quickly going to catch up to Brandt now with the fresh tyres.
So jumping forward. So yeah, and that he's currently running the C2 tyres. So he's jumped onto the mediums. And very close to the back end of Brandt there. 2/10, 3/10. And I can imagine those mediums are starting to scream for mercy as we cross the middle of the race distance onto the main straight. No one using their DRS. I think Nel might have forgotten again. He definitely was within a second in the detection zone. So he's going to do this the old school way, the hard way. And Corne Breed now running in fresh air, putting in a fastest first sector as we're chatting about this.
Maybe he's doing his final push before the pit stops.
It could be. It's very important that you get that fast in-lap done. And unfortunately, some contact between Nel and Brandt. Duggan running through.
Yeah, Schoeman's now come through as well.
So Maurice Schoeman has been quite quiet for the race, but he's moved up in the standings a bit. But kind of running on his own at the moment. And I suspect he still has to pit. So from what I can see, he hasn't pitted yet. So he's going to drop back in the standings a little bit once he actually decides to pit. Back to Nel and Brandt as these guys continue fighting. Down the main straight they go. Nel finding the button for DRS. Kuma now diving into the pits, just as we were talking about it. And Nel almost losing it on the oversteer. Oh, and this is insult to injury. As he gets a little bit of DRS going after the first turn. And Brandt pulling out ahead of them. I think that might have been a panic moment from Nel. And he might have been hitting a few more buttons on his steering wheel than he might have wanted. Nel losing his level head, some drifting from Brandt right ahead of him as Brandt falls in behind and trying to regain composure. These two drivers are on the absolute limit of their abilities. Just trying to run from one another, but not able to do so. Rest of the field all barely complacent in their own bubbles. We now have one of the other drivers, Duggan, coming into the mix. Brunt making the overtake on Nell. And onto the main straight we go. So we've got Nell behind Brunt again. Duggan managing to open up the gap through the last turn. No DRS for Nell. Into the first turn we go. So still attacking quite hard. And I think these drivers might be slowing one another down a bit. What are your thoughts, Dennis? Dennis, you still with us? Unfortunately, I think we might have lost Dennis to some connection issue. So now slightly backing off from Brandt. Sorry, Dennis, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Have you not been hearing me?
I think something might have muted on my side. I'm very sorry.
Okay. I was getting all excited about the Brunt and Nell battle on track at the moment.
Yeah, it's been extremely exciting. I was wondering why you were so quiet. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I was watching how brilliant Brunt has been defending, but as I say, that Nell's just spun off and hit the wall.
So yeah, I think that fight, everyone's been running at the absolute limit. And I think it just became a little bit too much.
I'm thinking everyone's going to have to do a two-stop here, judging by the laps. And the fact that Oberholzer has already done his first, he'll probably be the first to do his second then. He'll probably then go to the medium. Or
Yeah.
sorry, to the hard.
Yeah, he's going to have to pit again. I see Ruben Kruger, for some reason, it shows that he's done 3 pit stops. So I know there has been a situation where a driver's come into the pits, done his pit stop, and then accidentally triggered the second one as they were exiting the pits. So that might have happened with him. Although no, it's a bug with the timing software. But in the field, still to pit is Corne Breert, Raymond Duggan, Dirk Brandt, Mornay de Ploy, Jude Stewart, and Willem Stein. All running nice and long into this race. I just have to take a bit of a second to check which tires they're on. So Corne Breert running long on the medium. We know from experience that this man can make his tires work. I'm just going to jump to him. So Corne Breert pitted very late in the previous race. So he's definitely a master of preserving his tires in a downforce car. Looking very good through there. So he still has a gap to open up if he wants to clear Kruger. But he'll keep working on that. Stein diving into the pits. As we look around the rest of the field. Anything interesting on your side, Dennis?
I'm trying to see where the gaps are and where the battles are. At the moment, it doesn't look like anyone's close enough to attack anyone. Adrian Nell is now closing in on Deploy again after his pit stop and his spin. Sorry, after his spin, I don't think he has had a pit stop yet.
It would be a bit odd if he came out this far up on the grid after his fight with Grant. Yeah, there in the foreground you can see Deploy just rounding the corner as Nell chases down the straight, down the back portion of the circuit. So into the pits, that's going to be Mornay Deploy going in for fresh tires, saying he's had enough. 2/3 of the race. and he's been able to keep his tires alive. So Nel charging on through. And the next car in front being Jonkers. Gideon Jonkers doing very well in this race, maintaining that fifth position. So we'll see what happens here. Again,
I'm very impressed with Dirk Brandt's drive at the moment. He's driving fantastic in this race.
Yeah, he's doing really well for fourth place. I think he was in the previous race where he also did a very good drive. So qualifying not his strongest suit, but definitely having the skills where it counts.
He always used to be proud of the fact that he had such good consistency, and he's definitely showing it in this race.
Definitely, and as we say that, Brandt diving into the pits. So he's probably going to end up just behind Nel, and we'll keep an eye on Nel. Although not just behind, I think Nel's going to clear him by a bit. You see there in the pits, Nel rushing past. And it might even be that the deploy is definitely not going to clear him. Also becomes a bit difficult on the track map with the drivers mixed up so much due to the short circuit. So Monaco deploy also clearing Dirk Brandt, so he's definitely swapping out tires.
I don't know what happened to his pit stop, but he had an issue there.
So only coming out of the pits now, that's a lot of time lost for him.
It looked like it didn't take, he moved, it didn't take, and then he eventually got it to work. I think it wasn't changing his tires.
That could be. I think that might also be why some of the drivers are showing up with multiple pit stops.
It's a good thing that he figured it out, otherwise he would have had to do another pit stop.
It's already frustrating if you're struggling with a pit stop, trying to communicate with your crew which tire you want, and they're just sitting there trying to make sure that they put on the correct wheels. But yeah, he's got going again, and he's going to have to get his head down and put that consistency to use, as you've said. He's still within striking distance if someone has an off or has an issue on track, so he's going to have to position him for that eventuality.
Yes, and the others might have the same problem, so he might be in the same position again.
So I just quickly swapped over onto the screen. We've got Corné Breed jumping into the pits. There in the background we can see Ruben Kruger coming into view, or at least I think that, yeah, that's Ruben Kruger moving back into the lead. Corné Breed coming out of the pits. Is he going to be able to clear Duggan? Yes, well, that is not Duggan in the background, but he's able to clear the back marker that's coming in.
What tyre did Brett have on going into the pits? Because he's come out of the C3.
So he was running on the C2, I think.
Okay, so that isn't the same issue. He's good. All right.
Yeah, Corné Breed having a very solid race, especially with his second position. The man that snuck by, Ruben Kruger, in first position, and he already has his pit stop done and dusted. So he's going to look at just getting his head down. He's got 9 more laps to go, so all he needs to do is now keep it together and bring this home. I'm not going to sit with him too long, because I think he might get a bit angry at me. Although I haven't. Yeah. Let me just swap between the drivers. So apologies. This is Ruben Kruger. I was showing Corné Breed on the screen the whole time. But Kruger looking very solid indeed. Gideon Jonkers in third position. Also with a very solid drive. on the C2 tyre. So it seems like everyone has gotten their pit stop sorted out. And we're ready to get going with the last phase of the race. 5.5 seconds for Brea to chase down. He's got the C3 tyre on the soft, so he can chase Ruben Kruger a bit. And that C2 tyre from Kruger is going to be a bit older, so there might be a bit of a pace difference between the two drivers. Trying to look at the different times that they've set. So there's definitely a time difference. Corne Breed lapping a bit faster than Ruben Kruger at the moment, 0.2 faster. And he's done even a faster lap. Now a 0.3 difference between these two drivers, so he's going to be hunting him down. So we'll have a look to see if that gap is going to reduce at all. So for this last phase of the race, Dennis, what would your thoughts be? Where would your head be at?
I would assume that Brett is going to catch up to Kruger and make a pass, and depending what happens, I think everything should stay stationed from there on. It looks like the gaps are all pretty square, but I think Dirk might be seeing a bit of the red mist because he's going to come through the field hopefully with some fresh tyres and his issue in the pits.
Yeah, so indeed, he's got 27 seconds ahead of him between himself and the next driver. But as I've said, there is the possibility that there's an issue with some of your opponents. So you need to keep that in mind. Raymond Duggan is closing in on Adrianel. So Adrianel sitting in 4th. But he has shown that there are a few issues with the setup on his car. He's got a very loose rear end. So Duggan might have a bit of consistency in hand and might be able to just drive that much better at the moment. Now down to 0.5 as we go through the chicane. Very crucial sector of this track. We'll see how they can keep up with one another. Now desperate to hold on to this position as the time goes down to 0.3, 0.2 almost. We're getting within striking distance, so we're going to go through the DRS detection zone right about now. And that gap is within a second, so Duggan is going to have DRS available to him. Open the rear wing goes, and unfortunately I think he might have activated that a little bit too early. That reduction in the rear grip of the car, spinning out the rear end and sending him flying. That's unfortunately very...
the other side of him down the straight.
So Deploy now getting in on the action. So yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one to go through. And sorry, you were mentioning something, Dennis, but I think we just caught the tail end of that.
Oh no, that was just the spin of Duggan when he was on the straight spinning and he spun around again. The guys went left and right of him.
The Deploy is smelling blood and hunting down Duggan. Conor Brett has the gap down to 3.9 seconds. 5 more laps to go. End of the race drawing near, and he's going to have to push. It looks like the previous lap he had about 800 milliseconds in hand on Ruben Kruger. So definitely hunting down that lead position. Ruben Kruger having to contend with some traffic as he nears the main straight. So across the line he goes. and actually improves on his time. So a very slow lap from Corday Briat, and Kruger is able to hold on to a few precious tenths as we go into the few last laps of the race. Any action that you can see from your side, Dennis?
One thing I have spotted, I'm just watching what's happening with Dirk. I think his pit stop issue was the tyres weren't being changed, so he had to jump to pits, and as a result, it's topped up his fuel. His lap times are not looking good. He won't be catching Monet at this pace.
Yeah, definitely not. That's very unfortunate and very frustrating. Especially since he put in the hard work throughout the entire duration of the race.
And I think Kriya's got this one in the bag. He seems to have the pace to hold off Briat, so I think it's all good for him, barring any issues.
Yeah, Briat has had a few fast laps, but as we've got him on screen now, you can see him running very wide around one of the back markers. And it's costing him boatloads of time. I'm not exactly sure what that weaving is. It's not any defensive weaving, and I don't know if he's got tires that are running a bit too cold. But that gap has opened up a bit. I think Kruger has just put his head down and been really working at it. So looking around the pack. Now still holding on to that fourth position. Duggan in a very solid fifth. Deploy. I'm not exactly sure how this is happening, but Deploy was also running in sixth position in the V8 Championship for a very long time. So I don't know if that's just his lucky number.
Ooh, someone has just spun off. That was Deploy. Commentator's curse.
Honestly, I wasn't even looking at Deploy. But Deploy recovering very nicely there at the end of the circuit. I'm actually going to jump to Dirk Brandt, and we'll see. Dirk Brandt still has a bit of distance between himself and Deploy. So not really able to capitalize on that spin from Deploy. I can imagine the stress going through Mornay's mind as he's thinking about this gentleman on screen charging him down. Jumping to Ruben Kruger in front, just looking at his... Yes?
Sorry, Britt was two fastest sectors in the last lap. Middle and last sector, purple. He's pushing.
So Britt lying at the moment. And you're right, two fastest sectors. He's an entire second faster than Ruben Kruger was on the same lap. So whatever issue Britt was having, he's gotten that sorted. And he's getting the foot down. Looking around the pack, not too much action.
6/10 faster in the middle sector than Kriya.
That's looking very good.
Both sectors.
I think Kruger's tires might be dropping off at the moment. Kruger is running the C2, he's running the medium, and he's had a much longer stint on them. Sorry, yeah, he is running the C2s. So Britt has the tire advantage. I think the fuel load has also dropped down now.
Yeah, gap down to 3.5 seconds.
This is going to come down to the wire. Kruger needs to just keep his head down, keep consistent. You can see him there in the foreground. He's almost within visual range of Britt. I think that's...
Kriya has just said his personal best in Sector 1, but Britt has just gone purple in Sector 1 by 1/10, 1,000th faster, 100, sorry.
I think you're right, that is very close to 1/10. But both drivers pushing hard, very aware of one another.
Kriya personal best in the middle sector now.
We'll see where Britt. So Britt not really finding the time through the middle sector, slightly struggling. And we'll see where both drivers end up in this last sector. Kruger not improving on his last sector. And Beard also not finding the time, but still 9/10 faster, so he's giving it his all. Sorry, I've been looking at the best lap the whole time. That's embarrassing. So, sorry, Kruger has run 7/10 faster than Corne Breed. That sounds a lot more accurate.
Brett has just set the fastest first sector again, half a second faster than Kruger's current one. And he's run slightly wide in the following corner.
He's had to lift quite violently. That's cost him about 2/10. Wow. He got a really bad exit out of the chicane. He's a full second down on his delta. Or sorry, behind on his delta. I'm going to jump ahead to Kruger. Final lap for this man. And he's unfortunately going to have to contend with the commentator's curse because we want to see what he does with this last bit. Running very close to the inside of the corner and securing first. So congratulations to Ruben Kruger. Bring it home for the second race. Corne Breed securing second position, as you can see him doing the victory wiggle there in the background. Next man that we're looking at, Gideon Jonker. Right at the end. Wow. So Monaco Depot also coming across the line. You can see how mixed up the pack are.
Duggan's got Nell within his sights, but I don't think he'll be able to catch him.
So Jonker's securing third. I'm jumping to Raymond Duggan. And unless there's a big mistake from Nell, this is going to be the two positions that we have. Looking at the last portion of the circuit, and both drivers looking very clean. So, your grid for the night: Ruben Kruger, Corne Breed, Gideon Jonker, Adrian Nel securing fourth. As Duggan is also joining the victory donut celebrations. I'm not exactly sure which drivers are spinning. So yeah, your positions: Kruger, Breed, Jonker, Nel, Duggan, Deploy. 6th position, Brandt, Skuman, Pretorius, Stewart, Barnard, and the other Stewart, Stein van Wyk. Unfortunately, two of the drivers having some equipment issues. I'm quickly going to jump to interviews, and we'll quickly go and fetch Ruben Kruger if he's available, and have our interview. Right, so we've got Ruben Krier in the room with us. Ruben, that was a very impressive race. And we saw you pushing very hard in that last phase of the race with Corne Brett hunting you down. Were you aware of the situation and what was going through your head?
Yeah, I was very aware of that situation. My heart flipping started to beat a bit fast there at the end. But well done, Corne, with a good strat there. I wanted to go with the mediums to soft strat as well, but for some reason it started me on the grid with the soft, so yeah, I had to switch it around. But yeah, luckily I came on top.
Yeah, and that was a very, very impressive push from both drivers at the end. We're kind of keeping an eye on both of you and the times we're going to and fro. So some very impressive racing. And what was the start like for you? So
Yeah, the start. Sorry, yeah, go continue.
So we saw a few drivers kind of running off, not able to deal with the colder tires. But how was it for you?
Yeah, the start was very unexpected for me. I expected something a bit more, something that I would have probably stayed at like fourth, fifth, and then push on forward. But everybody just went off at the straight, and yeah, then I pushed through, and luckily I don't know how, but I got past Arianel, and then from there I thought he's gonna battle back, but no, I got a gap, and then yeah.
Yeah, I think at some point Adrian was pushing very hard, and that might have resulted in some mistakes from him. Dennis, any questions from your side?
No, apart from the ones that have already been answered about the pressure of being in front, and then at the end, wow, the gap was getting closer, and then Brett kept making mistakes. So you had that under control and very well driven there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't think I would have had it at the start of the race because my HLQ times wasn't that good. But yeah, race pace is just something else. So
it's all about dealing under pressure, and you definitely showed the consistency under pressure today. So well done.
Thank you very much.
So for everyone on the YouTube channel, thank you for watching, and thank you for keeping with us. Also, thank you very much for Dennis Mitchell for staying in the commentary booth with me and keeping it interesting. And then
Thank you for having me.
Sorry?
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. And then also just a big thank you to Monet Deploy for doing the video work for this series. It's always a pleasure having such high quality production work supporting the series. And yeah, also to the guys from Sim Experience South Africa involved with the server hosting and everything. Thank you very much for hosting this server. So from me, hope you have a very good evening, and hope you enjoy the F1 race tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much.